Welcome in another edition of Texans Huddle. I am ND sitting with my partner Deepi, and we have one of the guys that I've really liked for the last couple of years, been watching him grow and appreciate not just the type of man he is on the field, but off the field as well.
For sure.
Jonathan Greenard, a.k.a. JG, in the house. What's going on, brother?
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me. It's going to be a good time.
Appreciate you being here. DP, I'll let you start it off.
Oh,
Ladies
JG
first.
is like one of my favorites. And let me just tell you, ND, he won the Good Guy Award from the media last year.
Oh, yeah, I did, yeah.
Because the media just loves talking to him. And, you know, they usually have to kick us out of the locker room when it's done. And you know, as a player, players don't like to be on media. JG will sit there and just chop it up with us. Last year we talked about
everything.
We talked about stuff that I would see on ESPN. Yeah. I would ask him about D-line stuff.
Yep.
We talked about the Megan Thee Stallion trial. We talked
crazy.
about how your fiance is now watching Ugly Betty. You know, I went back and I started watching Ugly Betty after that. We hit all sorts of topics of conversation, but I know talking with him about football is just the best.
True
he'll
story.
just hit it straight.
Yeah. That's crazy that you said that about Ugly Betty.
You do not watch Ugly Betty.
When you get older, Jonathan, your workouts are going to be embarrassing like mine, where you just do cardio on a stationary, and the only way I get through it is watching something on Netflix.
Man.
So I said to myself, I keep seeing Ugly Betty, and then
it's
I
on
looked.
Netflix now.
So when it was on, I was still playing.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't watch it. So I just finished the entire series.
No, literally
like a week ago. I just finished it.
I'm trying to tell y'all,
Have
man.
you watched it?
I watched.
It's awesome.
I've watched a good bit. My fiance obviously watched all of it. Obviously, she got more time on her hands. But like, literally, it was one of those. I remember, like you said, you were playing when it first came out, and I remember when it first came out on Fox when I was a kid, and I'm like,
he was a kid.
Literally,
and
I had to tell
Appreciate it.
I had to tell how young he is, but at the same token, literally, I was like, man, these shows. Like, I didn't understand it at first because I'm like, all right, well, you know, I don't really watch too many shows like that, anyways. Until I got older, and I'm like, okay, well. This stuff is like it's the humor in it, like it's the adventures of what she's going through and all that stuff. So I mean, my fiance, she binge watches anything. So if I'm sitting there just on a day off or something like that, and she got the remote in her hand, I'm watching whatever's on TV.
You gotta, I got hooked. You have to start it and watch it because it's a great escape from reality. It's just light. You know, you have a lot of pressure being a football player, fixing to get married, fixing to be a daddy. You know, it's just a good escape from life. But that's what gets me through my 30 minutes.
And I love that you don't have to wait a week because when it was on, I'd have to wait till the next week. And you're working. And these are like working issues. It's a great show. But JG's like, he's well-rounded.
Yeah, 100%.
You can talk to him about anything,
100%. 100%.
Throw it out there, he knows about it.
And you know what? That's going to take you so far in life. Not to be so preachy, but you know, just the relationship you have with the media, people hear that. Right. And when you're done playing in 10, 15 years, however long it may be, you'll be shocked at how many opportunities just fall in your lap just because of the way you've been carrying
I appreciate
yourself.
That, yeah.
That along with, you graduated, right?
Right,
from
yes,
Louisville?
sir. Yeah, graduated Louisville, yeah.
Grad transfer.
Almost done with the Masters at Florida.
Wow.
Definitely going back to get that for sure, 100%. I don't have much longer on that. I think it's like 18, 20 hours, something like that. Credits left for my Masters.
What was your Masters in?
I'm getting my MBA in entrepreneurship.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I stopped it. Obviously, you know, I got drafted literally during COVID, so I had to put everything on hold.
That's right.
And I had a plan to go back, obviously, within the first 2 years. But, you know, I talked to some people, you know, with the NFLPA and seeing how they actually can help you out with those things. And they said it'd be better if you just do it, you know, once you're done with playing football. Some people do it now. I mean, they still take care of it for you, but I just think like timeline and everything focus would be better if I just knock it out towards the end. So
18 or 20 hours, you can do that.
Oh,
what
yeah.
is that,
It's like literally a semester and a half, a year. Literally, it's a semester and a half. Yeah. So I'm not
awesome.
definitely
You just got to
excited.
Squeeze it in between football
That's
at some
all it is.
point, right?
It's a matter of whenever I want to get my head back in the books, that's when I decide to probably go back in. So it'll be cool, though. I need it.
Last thing, and we'll get to football,
sure.
but the older you get, the more you actually want to learn things. Like
exactly.
Now I'm signing up for all different courses just because I just want to learn it.
Yeah.
But when I was in school, I was like, I'm not trying to. You know,
I read more than anything now. Like, it's crazy. Like as you say that, like, you know, I obviously you're in school growing up, you read a little bit, whatever they tell you to read, but I was never a guy to just, I'm going to pick up a book and read. I'm reading everything from articles, some newspapers, to anything that I could find that is like useful that I could either apply for myself, you know, my fiance, or, you know, being a parent, or anything, just standing up on everything, man. I'll tell you, I don't know if it's the baby coming in or something like you said, or me getting older. I definitely like to pick up some stuff to read. And obviously, like I said, knowledge is power. So
is it like You said it's parenting stuff. What are some of the things that you're really into?
Oh man, I mean, it's just from like the most like current events. Like, so if I read something, whether it's about like a recall on certain things, or some type of correlation or causation between whether it's foods that we eat that may lead to some type of defect or something going on with your body, or things we just didn't know, or whether it's history, whether it's things that I didn't know about, the history of a small town, or if something goes down here, it's just a historical event that makes people react a certain way. So when I'm addressing certain topics, I'm understanding and aware of how this may affect certain people, or how people view this, or I just go to the source, and now I can say, okay, well, this is what's really going on. I don't have to deal with the emotions or certain things like that. It's a fact. So when I deal with facts, it definitely helps me out in how to address and approach everything else. So that's everything that I do now. So it actually intrigues me.
Well, the fact is, you had a sack on one of the toughest guys to sack in the NFL, and you and I were talking before we started the Texan Huddle podcast, and you said it was more from similar to what you're talking about, gathering information about the guy blocking for him, and you kind of let the listeners know the thought before you sacked Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and like I said, obviously people don't know. I mean, I went to Louisville. We both went to Louisville.
He's wearing his Louisville shirt right now.
People still don't show Louisville enough love. Shout out to L1C4, the Card Nation. But yeah, man. I mean, when you're going against a guy like that, or just any guy in general in this league, you have to be well versed and well rounded as far as when it goes to data and understanding what they like to do. So whether it's on film, the type of person he is, or if it's a guy who's a fierce competitor like Lamar, he's going to try to make a play, period, whether it's him throwing the ball, running the ball, no matter what. But we also understand that why give him opportunities, to make those type of plays if you don't have to, Sometimes when it comes, you have to get beside yourself a little bit, because there may be something that I do really well, but just for this week, it might not be what we want to do in attacking him. So, and we looked and seen on film, they were a team that, obviously want to form a shield around him. And Lamar is a spectacular player. And we just wanted to make sure it was uncomfortable for him. And we know that the best way for us to play into our hands, or give ourselves the best chance. Obviously, we didn't get the result we wanted, but to give ourselves the best chance, we want to make sure that he stays within the pocket and actually just make us beat us with the throws. Because we all know he can definitely make some crazy throws now. But we rather him do that than embarrassing us trying to run around the field and getting 200, 300 yards, whatever, how much rushing yards that he could have had if we didn't go in with the right game plan. And obviously, like I said, we shot ourselves on the foot a lot of times. Hats off to them. They had a good game plan. But as we know in this league, you make too many mistakes, obviously, teams capitalize. So that all goes into it, from watching film from years prior, knowing the person, getting every little detail about them to help yourself be successful in the game.
How fixable is it? I mean, we talk about these first 2 weeks. Yeah. You've shown a lot of promise.
For sure.
I think week 2 against Anthony Richardson, another guy that went to an alma mater that you went to. So two rushing quarterbacks in the first 2 weeks. What did you learn about this defense? Because it seemed like you talk about the mistakes and the missteps. How fixable are some of those things moving forward here?
They're very fixable. We don't like to, because we're all human. Like, we understand people make mistakes, but in this time, in this game, and where we're trying to go, we understand that we have to limit those, and that's the hardest thing to do when obviously you get a new system, understanding what these, each week is like, or how they want to attack these guys now being, in a new front. Just a different mentality. It all just ties into how we want to make sure that we're not continuously beating ourselves. And I think that's the main thing, where we came out of all of these games and we could find something on every single play, big play that they had or big play that we had, whether we made a good stop or a good play on offense, but we also did some things that it didn't bite us in the foot then, but it later came back to haunt us. And that's the name of the game. I mean, that's how this game goes. Whoever makes the least mistakes usually wins. So at that point, we understood it was a lot of self-inflicting stuff and a lot of things that they did, and we could have definitely just did better things on our technique for us to be more successful. But just the mission, it definitely has to. We definitely got to turn it up a notch. I mean, I think that it's not acceptable at all. Losing is never acceptable. I don't care about the little moral victories. Like you see, I had a sack, but at the end of the day, we all came out of it like, hey, we still lost. Like, yeah, the sack was good, but wasn't enough. Good ain't good enough. A lot of times that's kind of what we use around here in this facility. But at that time, we definitely understood like what the mission was and how we want to attack every week, because we can always, like I said, pinpoint back to something in particular, whether it was a play during practice during the week or a walkthrough, something that we kind of maybe have missed or didn't hone in on too much on it and it ended up biting us. So I think that's on myself as well, for myself to continuously grow and understand that, yeah, you may have a game plan figured out, but you always evolve and always innovative because they get paid the same way we do, obviously more than others at times. But at the end of the day, their mission and their the goal for them is to obviously stay ahead of the next step for the next team. So once we get that and stop shooting ourselves in the foot a lot of times, I think that we should see a lot of results change.
I was going to ask you, Andy, because when you played, there were not a lot of mobile quarterbacks in this league. So when you're watching D-line play, how different is it from when you were in the league?
It's a lot different. I was talking to JG earlier, and we actually had different approaches. When I was with the Eagles, even when we had our great runs, when we would play Michael Vick, we did what was called a muddle rush, which you would hate because the idea was, we want the sack, but we're more concerned with not giving him a lane to run. So we kind of had to take a little bit, take our gas off, take our foot off the gas
100%.
When we played Michael Vick, but we still got after him. Now, like you said, DP, you have Anthony Richardson, you have Lamar Jackson, you have Josh Allen. There's probably about 7 or 8 guys that could really beat you with their legs. When I played in the early 2000s, you maybe had 3 or 4. And the ones that could, outside of Michael Vick, it was like, okay, if we stop the run, we'll win.
Exactly.
They were more one-dimensional. Now it seems like quarterbacks can do
That's
it all.
the hardest part now. I mean, like you said, the game has changed. I mean, like I said, Lamar and, AR, obviously, those guys run 4.4, whatever the case may be. But these guys also can throw it 70, 80 yards down the field and make these impressive throws. So, as he said, that the muddle rush, kind of like what we call power rush, is the same thing. We just want to not give him a lane. But in that same token, it's like, sometimes you could do that and he's still back there, or he can do this and that. So it's certain things that you just have to continuously, and it's like I said, most D linemen, they'll understand, because when you want to rush a guy and do certain things, we always want to go in fast, make the offense adjust to us. But certain times when you're playing a guy like that, it's the same, you want to still have the same mindset, but you also have to just have that little light in the back of your mind, like, hey, he's different than the other guys that you would be rushing against, a stagnant pocket passer that you would see in the past, like the Peyton Mannings or the Tom Brady's. These guys are just sitting there knowing that, hey, I'm going to stay in this pocket regardless and make the throws. So it definitely it's definitely a new age and a new day as far as the game goes. But it's great to see, though, you know what I'm saying? Because it only just makes us better in our approach to how we want to rush, because now we can honestly take that approach to any other quarterback, because now you understand, well, if you give this guy this certain lane, anybody who's fast or slow, they're going to make, they can do the same things that, a faster guy would. Obviously, the results will be different, but
It's funny you bring up Tom Brady, and I was talking about Michael Vick. When I used to talk radio every day, I would tell my listeners that obviously Tom Brady's the best quarterback to ever play.
Right.
But it was harder to get ready for Michael Vick than it was for a Tom Brady.
100%.
You're about to play a different quarterback who some feel can be an MVP in Trevor Lawrence.
100%.
So is there a different mindset preparing for a Trevor Lawrence versus the first two that you've prepared for?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say it's too much of a difference because we also know that, he's not a dynamic runner. However, Trevor Lawrence can run. He definitely can. I can see, you can see him take a distance a lot of times, but we know that he's a throw first guy, respectively. There's no knock to his running ability. But yeah, I think just overall, he's a guy that wants to stay in his rhythm. He's a guy, once he gets going and gets the quick passes going, he gets in that rhythm, he can beat anybody. I think he's as good as any quarterback in his league, and obviously we'll be moving forward. But yeah, the mission doesn't change. I think we're still going to attack him the same way. Definitely want to play our identity of football and just make them uncomfortable. I say that every week about every quarterback, because at the end of the day, quarterbacks are quarterbacks, no matter who they are. They have to get in some type of rhythm. If you get them off of that rhythm, it definitely changes their game plan and their approach. They have to go back and reevaluate. Some players bounce back and make adjustments on the fly and are still dynamic in their own way. But it definitely does make sure they understand that we're going to be here and be physical and be in your face pretty much all game. So anytime we get a chance to do that, and I think that's just our mindset with the guys we have in this room and then on this team, that we always just want to make sure that our presence is felt. So I think that's the mission going into it for sure.
All right, speaking of quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud, he's impressed with some of his mobility. A lot of people didn't know what he was able to do, but he just put up some tremendous numbers. Sure. I know you talk about no moral victories, but I think the one outstanding thing that people have been talking about is just the play of CJ behind a battered O-line with all the injuries and with himself even being banged up a bit. Right. What have you seen from him? I feel like you were so high on him this offseason, but Maybe it's no surprise to you, but what have you seen from him through the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, I remember watching the boys when they in the college playoffs, and people were so surprised, and even myself, I was so surprised, like with his running ability. But I say the running ability with his mentality of how much of a competitor he is. He didn't show it much, obviously, early on. At least I didn't see it as much in Ohio State, of him running and be able to just be a competitor, making throws on these things, extending plays. But once I seen that in that Georgia, I think they were playing Georgia, right?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I mean, this dude a baller. Like, I mean, he's showing me everything I needed to see at that point. And obviously, I was excited when they drafted him. But I just knew, like, whenever the first day came in, his mindset, I was like, oh, yeah, he the real deal. Like, he's been around. He's not just a young kid coming in here. He's a guy that he can sit right here and have a full conversation with us, as you already probably have talked to him before, which stood out to me a lot. And I just shows maturity of, his upbringing, things of people who he surrounded himself with. But he's played his butt off. I mean, that this past week, obviously, we take that ahead. I'm always going to take it on the defense, because at the end of the day, we're supposed to make sure they don't get many points, because we got a guy like him that's at quarterback. You keep feeding him the ball, something's going to happen. And I think with him, and obviously with a combination between him and Slow, our OC, man, it's going to be good. I was excited because I honestly was so caught up in like how defense was doing. I didn't realize when I looked at after the game, and obviously I seen the plays he made during the game, that what he did, I was like, wow, I mean, he still showed his butt. You know what I'm saying? He did his thing.
He's a lot of fun to watch.
It was very, very exciting to see him grow, even in that game, just him being more vocal and understanding like what he wants out of the team now. And I think that's just it'll be infectious to everybody, because we understand like this guy wants to win. It's not about personal accolades or more victories like we over here speaking. He's trying to win. And coming from a place like Ohio State, and like I said, I mean, we had our talks, it's like, I know you're not used to losing. You know what I'm saying? You don't understand how to cope with that, a loss like that. He's still going with the same mindset, like, no, we're going to get this thing right. And that's the part that stood out to everybody, because it's like when you see your leader doing that and understanding certain things, like we mentioned before, personal mistakes that we're making, once we all click on all cylinders and we're firing, I mean, we got something that we're working with pretty good. So I think that the sky's the limit for him, and him being our leader, it definitely shows, and it's going to be really good for us moving forward.
It seemed like he was under so much pressure. I mean, just being the quarterback at Ohio State. I mean, I went to Purdue. Yeah. I've never liked Ohio State, but I'll give my props where they're due. But just being a quarterback there, the way he carries himself, the amount of pressure. I mean, I remember in his opening press conference, he said there were celebrities in Ohio. It was like LeBron, and then the quarterback at Ohio State. Like, that's how much pressure's on you. How much does that help, like, the guys in the locker room sort of see where he stands because of the program that he has come from?
Yeah, I think it's huge. Like I said, mentioning before, when it's your quarterback and he's the one that's getting you fired up. I mean, a lot of people already walk around uncertainty in this game and in general. The locker room, rookie quarterback, they don't know what he could do. Obviously, he could say this and that, but guys been in the league. It's one thing to say it, but you going on 17 game seasons, we got to understand how to keep that sustainable. But the mindset he has on his approach every single day and what he does and how he just connects with certain people, everybody on the team, man, we're in it for the long haul. Like, we're pretty much ready to run through a brick wall and make sure that we're protecting him at all costs, because this guy's going to be the reason why we do make certain plays and we go to certain extents in seasons and years to come. So to have a guy like that, when a lot of guys, whether it's playing time or things that got going off the field, whatever that, he's a guy that just says, just make sure everybody is kind of a clean slate in their mind, so that way it's just all about ball, and make sure that, look, I'm going to be fighting for you. I just need you to fight for me. And that's the part where I can definitely see whenever he's addressing the team or addressing us individually, it's like, look, okay, you got our back, we got your back. And I think that's means everything when you're on defense. Your quarterback's that way. And I don't even know, obviously, being on offense and your leader's doing that. So I can just imagine what they're feeling on that side, when they have a guy like him who's, leading them when they're going into battle. So fierce competitor, good dude, good human. I mean, it's the sky, like we mentioned before, like being a good person, being well-rounded, well-versed for a guy like him, not only just a young guy, but like you said, it's going to take him so far. I'm ready to see what he does, for sure.
All right, well, I'm ready to see what you continue to do. You're already off to a fast start, but being the great teammate that you are, you're not sitting here focused on the sack that you already have on the season. You're still focused on those wins. But what are some of the small things that you need to do to make sure you continue to play at this level for the next, 16, 17 weeks?
Yeah. Kind of like what I've been doing already. I mean, being up here already, just getting, whether it's, treatment rehab, ice tubs, cold tubs, whether it's talking to certain people, watching different film, getting different perspectives on certain things, just always having an outlet as well, and obviously outside of football, to just clear your mind and you can decompress so that we can be the best version of yourself when you do step foot in here. I feel like I have a pretty solid routine so far, but as we all know, you have to adjust on the fly at times. If you feel like you need a little bit more treatment or you feel like you need a bit more stretching, you have to add those things into your daily routine. But yeah, I mean, this is the grind of it. I mean, you're already coming out of camp, so most people, you just start to feel kind of back to your true self going into week 2 and week 3, because you still have camp legs. You still have preseason legs.
What are camp legs?
Oh man, look,
you guys tell me what are camp legs?
Indy knows about them for sure.
Go run for about 10 miles with a weighted vest on.
Yeah.
You feel that's camp legs.
Like your legs just are like from obviously working 3 months of just hard work, obviously going against each other, and then you'd have preseason games into it. Going into that season, it could feel heavy because you did just come off of a haul, pretty much of its own season in a sense. And it's harder for a lot of guys to bounce back off of that because a lot of guys, when you train out in increments to basically pace yourself to be ready for camp and going into the season. Mm-hmm. But nobody ever trains for camp. You train for the season. But when you get to camp, you got to give it all you got. It's basically a game every single day. So when you are doing those things and your legs are heavy, your legs are shot, going into that first week, some guys either have their legs back or some guys are trying to get their legs back. They have that pop in their legs. And obviously when the game time comes, everybody's going to do what they got to do to perform. But as I mentioned, going into week 2, week 3, after you got the first game jitters out the way, all the mess ups, whatever the nervous jitters you have, your legs start to just fully, okay, now we're getting into what we worked in the offseason for. Now we're starting to feel like we can reap the benefits of what we've been putting into work. So once that kind of wore off, and like you said, we're starting to feel really good. Obviously, we're going to get some guys back. Whatever that case may be, we all feel pretty good. And I think that's just the main thing we try to do, to stay fresh as long as you can, because obviously the best ability is availability in this game. So whatever you got to do, whatever that entitles, do what you got to do, because at this point, it's a long marathon. Because we in week 2 and week 3.
Heading into week 3.
And now we got 14 more weeks still, 15 more weeks. So, and that, people don't really think about that. That's 5 more months.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So that it's not like you're just, can go back to that, training that you've been doing in the offseason, because once you're done training, you're in it now. Nobody gets faster, stronger during the season. You just got to maintain and make sure your body still gets to that point to where you feel the best you can.
The good coaches, and I have a feeling my old teammate D'Amico Ryans will be like this, they understand, and I shouldn't just say the good coaches, but the ones that actually play.
For sure.
They understand that it's not just a physical grind, but it's a mental grind.
100%.
I would predict at some point mid-season, he's going to give y'all a couple of days off and tell y'all, don't even come to the stadium.
Look. We're looking forward to
you
it.
Put that in
I'm looking forward to it. And he's right though. You know what I'm saying? Like being with other coaches and who've been around it, they do see that. Obviously, I look forward to that any day.
Yeah, I bet.
But no, it's true. Obviously, this game is so mentally toll. It takes a mental toll on you so much that you have to have those moments. Like I mentioned before, if you don't have an outlet outside of this game, I want to see it. I want to see what that routine looks like, because we go through so much. Obviously, not just about the game, but every single thing. Because we're all, end of the day, we're grown men at the end of the day. We have responsibilities, families, whatever it is the case may be outside of ball. That you have to have that outlet, that little downtime. So yeah, for sure, to definitely have that incorporated into your routine is something I highly encourage. So I'm looking forward to that, Miko.
I might have to wait a few more weeks for that, but I'm sure it's on its way.
Get a couple more dubs, we'll definitely feel that for sure.
All right, we'll take a few seconds to have a mental break from Texans Huddles. We're sitting here with Jonathan Greenard. Quick timeout, then we'll be right back. Welcome in, welcome back, Texans Huddle. I'm ND, she is DP, and sitting with us, JG, just so it all rhymes. Jonathan Greenard.
We do have all initials as names. I didn't even think about that.
JG, Jonathan Greenard, joining us here, Texans Huddle. We talked a lot about the first couple of games, but I want to talk more about Jonathan Greenard, because, again, anytime a defensive end is drafted, I start to follow them, and with you, I was just impressed with what you did in college.
Right.
I'm starting to now learn and understand and appreciates the word I'm looking for, because I still had that old school mentality when it came to the transfer portal.
Oh, yeah.
Nah, you sign with Louisville, you stay at Louisville, until the league comes.
Yeah.
But you actually did it the way that I appreciate. You graduated from Louisville, then you went to Florida, then you balled out in the SEC.
Right.
So just kind of talk about what made you transfer, what was the thought process, and how it worked out for you.
Yeah, like I said, initially I never thought about I would ever transfer from the school I initially inked the NLI to coming out of high school. But yeah, man, things happen. Obviously, I started out redshirting my first year, and I realized looking back on I sat behind some really good players and really good guys, and just observe a lot of times and just try to soak all the knowledge I could up about the game and about life. So started out at Louisville, went through I redshirted my first year, played a little bit my second year, which is my redshirt freshman year. Redshirt sophomore year is when I kind of had like my coming out party, you would say. I kind of started to make a lot more plays. I think I was a backup, but I pretty much still had like starter stats. So I pretty much still did my thing. And then going to that redshirt junior year, obviously I ended up getting hurt. First game of the season, playing against Alabama. I think I played like 6-7 plays, I want to say. Literally that was supposed to be the season I ended up playing, and ended up declaring for the draft right after, because I had such a solid season before. But yeah, went through that, got hurt, messed up, had a pretty serious injury, missed out on the whole entire season. The season didn't go as planned. Our coach ended up getting fired. And pretty much I just wanted to use that opportunity for my last year to better myself and put myself in the best situation to go while still having my eyes on the NFL. I still think it was still achievable at Louisville. But at that time, my DC obviously was down at Florida, and it made more sense for me to go into my final year of not having to think about everything, going into a system where I can just go in and play and worry about that. So ended up still having, I think I had about, I was going to graduate in that spring semester right before going into 2019, which was my last year at Florida. But once I seen that there was an opportunity for me to possibly leave and explore my options elsewhere, I wanted to make sure that, during that time, the portal they will allow you to play straight away if you had graduated, or unless you had a waiver that the NCAA had to approve you of. And as we've seen a lot of stories now, a lot of kids are getting denied, still having to sit out a year based off of their situation. But I knew I didn't want to even give them a chance to even make any issues about that. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just go and double up on these credits and graduated early. And I was ended up able to graduate in December, a semester and a half, I think about a year early, semester early. And once I got down to Florida, I always grew up a Florida fan. I was literally a Gator fan from the time I was a child. Growing up in Atlanta and Georgia, it was definitely frowned upon, being around Georgia Bulldog country. But once I got to Florida, it was everything. I think the environment was the first thing I noticed, obviously, just because it's the SEC now, where fans come out to every single event. At Louisville, they'll say they're a basketball school. I'm not really going to argue with that. They're a basketball school because at the time, obviously, we're coming off a championship in, I think, 2013. Everybody used to go to the football games or the basketball games. When I got on the SEC, and obviously they went to baseball as well because Louisville has a heck of a baseball team as well. They were definitely at those games sold out. But when you go down to SEC country, they're at every single sport. Like, I'm talking about every sporting event from tennis to all the way down to basketball, to football, baseball, swimming, you name it. Gymnastics, that was probably the most people I've ever seen.
Really?
Man, listen, they're there in full force just because of the support you have. And obviously Gainesville is literally college town in Gainesville. So you got to think that's their professional team over there. So, and obviously they have a true history, obviously, down in Florida of having success, football and all sports, whether it's championships and or championship appearances or things of that sort. They're always going to be in the hunt for that. So when I went down there, just instantly, I just felt the energy from Gator Nation. And as soon as I stepped foot on the field for the spring game, I instantly knew then. I was like, yeah, this is about to be a crazy year. This is about to be super fun because of just how many people showed up just to the spring game. I think it had about, I'm going to say 50 to 60,000 that holds 90,000 in a stadium. And you're like, this feels like a regular game already. So to go down there and enjoy that final year, and my only thing I could think about was just playing football. I didn't even really care about the league, really, just because I knew that would come if I did my part. So, with the coaches that I had down there, with the staff that they had, amazing staff, They set me up to go really, really good, and make sure that I not only put my best foot forward in football, but obviously I was able to start on my master's as well, and be able to start on my MBA, what I'll soon be having pretty soon. But yeah, definitely, I love Gator Nation. Whenever I go down there, it's always love. But to use the portal the way, and it definitely benefited me in that instance. The portal is everything for me.
Two things. So I have a comment and I have a question.
Sure.
First of all, the comment. What a boss move. You know what? I'm not even going to give y'all a chance to mess around with my eligibility.
100%.
So I'm going to double up on my credits and I'm going to graduate so y'all don't question me. So I love that.
Not at all.
My question, and maybe because I'm on the outside looking in now, I remember when we're young, we think we could do it all.
Right.
If I'm transferring, I'm thinking to myself, should I go down a notch to make sure I'm playing every snap and I get a chance to prove, or take the risk and go up a notch where I could, one, either ball out in the SEC or I might fall behind in the depth chart. Did you think about that when you were deciding on your next step? Or was it like, I'm going to Florida?
It was kind of a little bit of both. Obviously, I knew my DC that recruited me, obviously, to Louisville was down there. And I knew then, I said, okay, well, at least I can give myself the best shot, but at least I don't have to know about the plays because I already knew that. Now I just have to worry about competing. And I knew it wasn't going to be a cakewalk. I had to work my butt off, and I earned that spot. And everyone knows that I earned that spot from day one. I mean, I was obviously coming off of a wrist injury. I'm in there still not even, I don't think I was even cleared yet, but I'm in there literally the first weeks of winter workouts doing lunges and bear crawls with them, and I'm still in a dang near a cast almost. And from that point on, they just knew what type of time I was on. They knew I was like, hey, okay, this kid, he ain't coming down here just to say I went to Florida or I just came to SEC. He's trying to dominate. And I think that was the main thing I always tried to do and keep that mindset because of its history and the guys that they've had at defensive end and D-line and outside backer. These just the history behind Florida is just, you could feel that because the standard is it was held such a so high level. You know, you got alumni coming up from Brandon Spikes to Joe Hayden, the Percy Harvin, the Pouncey brothers, Tebow. I mean, you name it, they were there. And that's where, you know, Major Wright, shout out to all of them. Still got good relationships with all of them. I mean, everybody you just feel that infectious spirit of, listen, place is not everybody just here existing. We're trying to win and be great. So when I went down there, I all went into it. And obviously, like I said, just to answer your question, I knew my DC was down there. So I knew at least for that point on, I just got to worry about competing and everything else to take care of itself.
When you look at the transfer portal, I think it's very easy for some of us that have not ever had to deal with it to say, kids are just jumping in it like a swimming pool. When you look at that, are you just, because you've been through it, do you just look at it like, hey, no judgment, but do you think that sometimes it's abused, just the ability to, I don't like what's happening here, I'm falling down on the depth chart, I'm just going to leave?
No, you're definitely right. I hate how it's so saturated now. It's just because, like I said, it's two things. It's good for the people that actually could use and benefit off of it. But it's also bad because, you know, some people, just because they say they don't like their situation, then they can just say, hey,
There's
I'm
a
done.
lot of that,
you know
right?
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the thing is that they don't know and people don't allow to tell them is, you put XYZ into the portal, there's only so many amount of scholarships. So you can go in there thinking that is, you know, you're going to just get picked up because my thing, when I put my name in the portal, and obviously when you go through that process, people that go through that process, you put your name in that portal, it sends that message out to all the coaches that, hey, this kid is in the portal, you know, from everywhere, all SEC, not SEC, all NCAA schools, Division I, D2, whatever it is, your name goes in there. So you could be a guy that has, you know, your phone's blowing up from different schools. Hey, you know, what's up? You know, they're just trying to get a feel for you, possibly are interested in you. And then you could also have the ones that you put your name in there, and now you don't have anybody hitting you up. And now, not only that, you've also now shown your school that you're trying to look elsewhere. So now you've pretty much not necessarily turned your back on, but you've turned your back on them in a sense, and to say, hey, this isn't working out for me. I'm trying things elsewhere. But if it doesn't work elsewhere, hey guys, I'm back.
I saw the spot.
You know, like now everybody's looking like, okay, well, what do we? You pretty much just kind of turn. You know what I'm saying?
Because that means a lot, right?
Right, it does.
To a coaching staff, and like in a program. If you say, I don't want to be here anymore, but then you're still there.
See how mine was a little different because, you know, a lot of my guys, they knew obviously I got hurt at the time, and they knew obviously the situation was going on at school. But before I ended up even putting it out publicly about what I was going to do, I went to all my teammates that I knew that obviously, you know, who cared or the ones that I could get a hold of, and I'm like, hey, look. This was going on. I'm thinking about doing this and that. I'm thinking about going down to Florida. Every one of them were like, really? That's what's up. Let's go. Do your thing, bro. You finna go.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they were super supportive because they understood not only who I was, what I was going down there for, and what I was trying to achieve. I mean, and how I went about it. I didn't try to be slight them at all. Well, these guys ain't good enough for this and that. No, because it's never what is the case. I mean, we still got guys on that team that's in the NFL right now. So it's like, it never was once that. And I think people from the outside looking at it can kind of see it. In some cases, it is like that where you feel like you turn your back on it. But a lot of cases, a lot of times, you can go to these players that are former players that play with the guys that have transferred, and I'm pretty sure there's no bad blood at all, because we're all chasing the same thing. Some people just take different routes, but at the end of the day, the goal and the mission never changes. So if you got real people and real friends in your corner, real teammates that understand that, and you do it the right way, I think it should definitely be, it always gets received better. So I definitely had to do that for sure, because I just knew I'd rather hear from them, because I was obviously a leader on the team as well. I'd rather them hear from me than they hear from anybody else.
We keep hearing he put his name in the portal. Logistics-wise, for us who do,
Right.
what does that mean? Like, do you call somebody? Do you have to fill out a form? What
So
does that
yeah,
mean?
you
What's
literally,
the website?
no, literally, because my whole thing, I never thought about it until obviously it was, it came across my mind a little bit. My family, we talked about it a little bit, but I didn't know how to go about it, because it's definitely a nerve-wracking time too. I will say that, because even though I had a plan in a sense of where I knew I wanted to go, I knew that I was able to get into the school, I was able to get into the practices and get on the team, period. It still was a little bit of apprehension, because it's like, I was 21, just turned 21, 20, and we feel like we know everything at the time. You feel like, oh, I got everything lined up. And, me being that leader to the team, you never think that you have any type of hesitancy about anything. So you are picking up your life and going to a whole nother area, and it's kind of prepared me for how the league is, or just in life in general, where you have to make these type of moves. But it's definitely nerve-wracking, because you don't know. It's the unknown. Yeah, you have a plan, but at the end of the day, you still got to go down and make sure that you fit in with the team, make sure that you still are ready to play ball. And obviously, I was coming off of an injury that I wasn't cleared for yet. So I don't even know how my body was going to respond to being in now. Like you said, I could have went lower, but I'm going from no knock to ACC, but I'm going to, as we all know, the SEC, the top of the top. So to see that and have that in my mind, I was definitely nervous, 100%. Like, I was nervous as ever. But with the support of my teammates and my family, they knew that. I mean, if it was anything off, they will have no hesitancy to say anything like, "Hey, bro, this is not a good move," or "You might want to rethink this." They were all for it, because they understood what I had laid out for them and talked to them about.
All right, to end this segment and to end this topic,
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
For sure.
You ready?
Here we go. I already know. I have a feeling about
Oh,
it.
you do?
You know what?
I'm
Here we go.
totally lost. Go ahead.
Because when you talk about Louisville,
Right.
you show a lot of respect.
100%.
When you talk about Florida, your
100%.
eyes light up.
100%.
So are you more Gator
So
or
let's say
Cardinal?
this. All right.
He already knows.
To answer it all,
Should've seen
man.
that
Listen. So I have been a Gator fan since I was like I said, 5, 6 years old. You name it. I've been diehard Gator. So Louisville definitely has my heart. That's my alma mater. I definitely know it's all love there. But man, them Gators, dog. Man, you gotta put me on the spot.
They're playing each other, JG.
they are-
Which jersey are you wearing?
I'm gonna split it right down the middle. I'm gonna have Louisville on one side and Gators on the other side. But man, listen, I mean, the love I get from both of them is amazing. Obviously, it's crazy. I remember I checked on Twitter after it all was happening when I got to the league, and I remember seeing people bickering over like,
They
he claims,
were.
yeah. He claims Florida. He claims Louisville. I'm like, hey man, like I love all of them. Like when I tell you, they both have a special place in my heart. I could never choose, but they all know. Like when I tell you, I go to Gainesville, they show me so much love and support. Man, I go to Louisville, they still show me so much love and support. Man, it's a great thing, and I think both fan bases are amazing. But yeah, I've definitely been blessed, obviously, to have a journey like I had in college, but that ended up benefiting from me. So I definitely love it. I mean, Gainesville, L1C4 for sure down in Louisville, and Gator Nation, they definitely look. They standing strong. So y'all don't beat me up too bad. I ain't got an answer for y'all today again. But if it came down to y'all playing each other, like I said, I'm splitting it right down the middle, man.
One more segment
That's
to go.
cool.
Texans Huddle, joined by Jonathan Greenard, giving us the very political, diplomatic answer.
Yep. I'm going for it.
Quick timeout. We'll be back.
For sure.
Welcome back. One more segment to go with Jonathan Greenard here at Texans Huddle. We talked a little talked a little transfer portal.
Yep.
We talked about the previous games that we played in this early season. You're going back to Florida. You know, who said going back to Cali? Was that LL Cool J?
Yeah.
That's before your time. Me and DP know about that, but you don't know about that going back to Cali.
Kids know who LL Cool J is.
Going back
To
to
Cali.
That's
Biggie, right? That's Biggie. So that's Biggie. So it's the OG one with LL Cool J.
LL Cool J. So when you're done here, go on your little iPhone and going back to Cali.
You just put me on.
I'm
Say
going
less.
back to Cali.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, next time I see you, give me thumbs up or thumbs down.
I got you.
At the time, I wasn't really feeling it, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to get your take.
For
But
sure.
let's get your take on what's going to happen on the field. So thoughts is very early. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch film on the offensive line of the Jacksonville Jaguars, but just kind of thoughts of what you need to prepare for going into this game.
Yeah, like I said, it's a division opponent, and I think that's the main thing that kind of everything else kind of gets thrown out, but it doesn't. But it does. But at the same token, we just know they're gonna stick to what they know best, and they obviously see certain things that teams against us have had success on in the past and try to put that into their game plan. But a guy like I'm pretty sure it's Doug Peterson over there, right? Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
So I mean, insane offensive mind. We already know what he's done. Obviously, being back in Philly and those things of like that. And he's going to make sure their guys come to play. And I think that's the same thing we're going to have for sure. But like I said, the mission doesn't change. I know that obviously their O-line. I think they're banged up a little bit, whatever the case may be. But they get paid too, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna have a game plan ready for us to try to slow us down and make us uncomfortable as much as we're trying to make them uncomfortable. So I think it's gonna be always anytime we go down to this field, I always call it the bank. We played there down at our Florida Georgia game. Obviously, that rivalry is down there in Jacksonville. That stadium is all. I haven't won in there once. I think we.
But the Texans have won 5 straight. Oh, you didn't play last year.
Exactly. So
yeah.
I missed it. My last summer I was there in my rookie year. We played Jacksonville. And it was a crazy game. That was actually one of my first true actions in the NFL is to be down there in Jacksonville. And it was like, oh, this is the first game I get a chance to play. Is the same game I played the year before. But it was cool. I think, like I said, they're going to come very prepared. We understand what's at stake for us, and moving forward, we just got to continue to keep the foot on the gas. Like whenever we see an opportunity, we have to capitalize on it. And I think that's the name of the game. I mean, every team that the teams we lost to so far, they capitalize on our mistakes. You know what I'm saying? So once we get that and we're firing on all cylinders for that aspect and we capitalize on those things and keep the foot on the gas, I think we should definitely see a better result for sure.
I know you've seen this team many times in the past, obviously, but I was just thinking this last night when the Monday night doubleheader was on.
Oh, yeah.
Because all 4 of those teams,
we're playing all of them.
You're going to face all of them
I
at
literally
some
said
point.
that last night too. Yep.
So, when you're prepping for a team, obviously that's not the case for Jacksonville, but just a team further down. Do you watch those games with that sort of intensity of, okay, let me just see what they have? And also I want to ask about the group chat because I was just wondering, do you guys group chat about these games while you're watching them too?
Yeah, definitely. Because last night, I remember I was saying to my fiance, I just realized, we actually play all of these teams that's on the team right now. Like we were watching because I was trying to figure out which one I wanted to watch at first because I cut the first one on the Carolina game. I was like, okay, cool. Obviously I know a couple guys on both teams, on all 4 teams. But I'm just checking them out, and then an hour later, the next game, Pittsburgh game comes on. I'm like, oh, it's Pittsburgh on. And I'm looking, wait a minute, we actually do play them in a couple weeks. That's what I'm saying. It's the next home game.
Yeah.
So,
and the Browns.
Yeah, and then obviously it just continues to go on. So I'm just like, okay, well, yeah, I love watching ball anyways, whether it's college ball, high school ball. Sometimes I can just cut on football and I'm just sitting there like, it's therapeutic for me. It's weird. But at the same time, I knew that, these teams are both on the rise. They have great coach teams, well coached, some spectacular players on both sides. Obviously, Pittsburgh, what they can do. Cleveland, what they have on their side. Carolina is, obviously kind of in our situation. They new quarterback, young, rookie quarterback. They're still finding their way in their aspect. They look really good too as well on both sides of the ball. In New Orleans, obviously, we faced them in preseason, and we've seen what they're capable of and how they're so explosive and they still play their way. I mean, I think there's no other team besides Pittsburgh, obviously, with Tomlin. They're one of the teams that they stick to their MO no matter what. They're always going to continue to try to drive what they want to do and make teams adjust to them as opposed to just other teams. And like I said, I respect them so much for that, which makes it more of a challenge for us on defense to make sure that we continue to keep our identity and make sure that they adjust to us and it's never the other way around. So watching all those games is definitely good because you're going to face them eventually. You see what type of, for me, I was watching, Indy knows. Well, we're watching the O linemen pretty much all the time.
Oh, you are?
Look, we're literally watching the trench
all
battle.
Great quarterbacks
It's cool to watch, the ticket sale guys, the quarterbacks, receivers, and make the spectacular plays. But literally, I'm literally watching the trench battle. I'm watching how these D tackles and D ends is going against the O linemen, what they doing. I mean, I just love that stuff to see, how they're going to adjust on certain things, what moves do they do. Just kind of pick up on tendencies. I'm pretty sure they do the same thing. Everybody does it. It's just a matter of, that's just one thing I know I focus in on whenever I'm watching football. So they definitely got good groups on all four of those teams, and obviously coming up with Jacksonville, they have a great team up front too on offense and defense. So we definitely it's gonna be a challenge, but we love challenges. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what the game and the league is about, is challenging yourself. And obviously we're going to have a good game plan going through the week to make sure that we have our best foot forward moving forward.
Do you group chat? Because like me, Mark, Johnny, Drew, Indy, I'm sure has his own group chat about the games. Your thoughts?
Mine is, so we have a group chat, obviously. We don't really talk about it most times. So we didn't do it last time. We usually go to dinner on Mondays as a D-line. And most time we'll go to the spot where they have the TV and we're obviously watching the game and chopping stuff up about that. But for the most part, I'm always talking to my boys, either from my high school buddies or something like that. We're always on the phone like, hey, you see this and that? Like, you see this? Because it's just a different level of, like, just different ears. My buddy, he's one of the biggest football fans, period. And he actually knows about football. So it's not like we're sitting here talking about, well, he should have did this. Because everybody's a coach and a referee on the internet. He's like, you should have did this, but it's never like that. It's more so like, oh, did you see how he did this? Oh, I see why he did this. He probably thought this guy was going to do this and that or this and that. So this is how we just talk ball. So whenever we're in a game or, I take something from in practice, or I did this move because I felt like he was doing this and that, or I felt like he was going to do that. Certain things we love just talk ball. And anytime we talking ball, or with me, I'm all ears. So all the way from the D-line to the cornerbacks, I mean, you can name it. I'm always talking ball.
So D-line dinner's on Monday now? It was on Thursday.
Right.
I thought the position
we switched it a little bit. For the most part, we like to do it on Thursdays, but we figured that it was the best part to do it Monday, because after the game we always come in, and Tuesday's our off day, obviously today.
Good point.
So Monday we can just go in and have dinner and enjoy the next day of being it off. And Thursday sometimes we do it as well too, because obviously Friday it's a shorter day, obviously for because we're getting ready to pretty much put the fine touches on everything. So it really just depends on God's schedules. If we got if they got families or they doing dinner night, date night with their wives, or whatever the case may be, it's easier just for us to reschedule and always know we got Monday in our back pocket. But if Thursday or Friday doesn't work, just because we want to do that, it's nothing for us to just switch it over.
It's a flexible D-line dinner.
It wasn't always like that now. Obviously my rookie year when we had, the vets, JJ and these guys, they're like,
Thursday
no matter what. Like Thursday or Thursday no matter what. Like, hey, no matter what. So I definitely I'm appreciating. The guys appreciate it too, obviously, because we all still want to fellowship and just be around each other. Because at the end of the day, we're all grown to have our responsibilities and priorities. But this is a kids' game. We have to understand and still do those things to make sure we have that camaraderie built. Because at the end of the day, we're all we leaning on. You know what I'm saying? So in order for us to build that and hold each other to that standard and fight for each other like that, we have to have these times we break bread like that. So I like it for sure.
All right, break bread. We're going to break the show and let you enjoy your off day. We really appreciate the time that you've given us.
This was fun, man.
And look, I'm going to say this on air because you're so impressive. I'm making my son, who's a redshirt, he's redshirting at Baylor. Now I'm gonna make him listen to this whole podcast because I want him to have your mentality with everything. But man,
I love it.
Continue to just root for you. Been doing it for a couple years.
See, this is
now.
why he won the award.
He's awesome.
No, literally.
But I've met him before and I knew that. But to really be able to sit down,
you can chop it up about anything.
And to your point, I mean, I know we're about to get out of here, but to the ones who are redshirting, man, it's not the end of the world. I mean, I think I wasn't ready. As much as I thought I was ready, and you probably think you are ready, it's a reason the coaches are making you do like red shirt stuff. And all you can do is just be in it and own that moment. Get stronger, get faster, get caught up. Heck, even get a head start on your academics. I doubled up my red shirt year and ended up taking more classes than I did the rest of the years because I got more time. Obviously, you're still going to be practicing, doing everything with the team. But when it comes to Saturdays or Sundays, after the games, you might have a practice. They might have workouts. But on that day of that Sunday, you could be getting way more work in than these guys have been doing, And then when it's your time to shine for real, then you're ready to go. It's always not the best thing to go into the portal. Sometimes it is, depending on what it is. But if you're going to ask me about my opinion, the only reason I did it because obviously I had a plan. But the red shirt thing is not the end of the world. I think it's one of the best things you can do. It's honestly becoming a lost art, honestly, in college ball because there won't be many red shirts anymore because as we have the luxury now to hit the portal. But yeah, man, just stick it out, man. Grind it out. I promise you, you're gonna reap the benefits for sure.
Jonathan Greenard, Texans Huddle.
Yes, sir.